All right, section 8.3 covers volume of a sphere. First, let's look at what actually a sphere is. A sphere is the set of all points in space that are the same distance from a point called the center. Anywhere in space, 3 dimensions, anywhere around that center, the radius r is the distance from that center to any point. That is what makes a sphere. A sphere is different from other solids you have studied because it does not have a base. To discover the volume of a sphere, you can use an activity to the one we did in the previous section. So I'm actually going to go over this in class, a little activity that will show you how we get the volume of a sphere. So here's your key idea. The volume of a sphere is the product of 4/3 pi and the cube of the radius of the sphere. So 4/3 pi r cubed. So let's look at example number 1, finding the volume of a sphere. Here's our sphere. It has a radius of 4. So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. From there, we're going to plug in 4/3 pi and the radius, which is 4 to the 3rd power. That gives us 4/3 times 64. Well, that's 256 thirds pi, which if you simplified that, 256 divided by 3, multiplied by pi, that gives you approximately 268 and 1/10 cubic centimeters. Example 2, finding the radius of a sphere. So we're going to still use the same formula. So what would I write down first? You'd write down the formula. Volume, so you could write down 288 pi equals 4/3 pi r cubed. What do you think you'd do first? What would you do? Well, what I would do is multiply both sides by 3/4, the reciprocal. Well, that gives me, let's see, 3/4 of 288 is going to give me 216 pi equals pi r to the 3rd power. Well, I divide both sides by pi using the division property of equality, and I get 216 equals the radius cubed. Well, then to get rid of r to the 3rd, I have to take the cubed root. And so the cubed root of 216 is 6. So the radius is 6 inches. And ta-da, you are done. So in example 3, we're going to find the volume of a composite solid. This is a silo. Actually, when I was a kid growing up, my family was on a farm, and so we had many of these silos. So this silo, we have the top of it, which is a hemisphere. A hemisphere is 1/2 of a sphere. So the top of the silo is a hemisphere with a radius of 12 feet. What is the volume of the silo? Round your answer to the nearest thousand. So in this problem, we have 2 shapes. So what you should do first is separate them. Look at them, label them. We have to find the volume of a cylinder and a volume of a hemisphere. Well, the cylinder is pi r squared multiplied by height. So that gives me what? Pi r squared. So what would that be? R squared. Tell me what it is. What should I put right here? Well, 12 squared is 144. Multiplied by the height, which is 40. That gives me 5,760 pi. Now the hemisphere is going to be 1/2 of 4/3 pi r cubed. So that gives me 1/2 of 4/3, when would be 2/3, pi radius cubed. That would give you, if you plugged it in, 1,152 pi. So the total volume, if you added these together, would be 6,912 pi, which rounded to the nearest thousand is 22,000, approximately 22,000 cubic feet. In this section in your notes, you need to write down 2 vocab words: sphere and hemisphere.